Just sit down, lay down. Today's talk is from the 24th chapter of the Dhammapada, called the Tanhavagga. Tanha means, T-A-N-H-A means thirst, desire, craving. I mean, the literal translation is closest to thirst, but all of that means craving, desire, rooted in ignorance of Four Noble Truths. And it speaks to a key theme of the Buddha's teaching, as does most of the Dhammapada. And that craving arises from ignorance, a very specific ignorance of Four Noble Truths. And it is at the point of craving, meaning also at the point of contact, that we practice wise restraint. This is where the Dhamma practice is meant to be practiced, right here, right now, with what's occurring. Let me read the sutta. There's plenty of articles on the website, in fact, under the category of that, wisdom of restraint, but it's such an important understanding. The Tanhavagga from the Dhammapada 24. The craving of mindless people grows like a creeper. Like a monkey seeking fruit in the forest, they leap from moment to moment, tasting the fruits of their karma. Lay down, both. Come on. Those unrefined, clinging to craving, are overcome in the world. Their sorrow grows like grass after the rains. Those refined, having overcome the world, released from craving, difficult to escape, their sorrow rolls away like water beads off a lotus. And again, that points to the whole point of the Buddha's Dhamma. Is to not be overcome by the world, to recognize that the world itself has its own allure because of a mind rooted in ignorance. And rather than teach a doctrine to embrace all of what's occurring, the Buddha teaches us to be at peace with all of what's occurring, because the ultimate foolishness is this notion that we are all one and we're all part of this thing. Again, that contradicts what the Buddha's teaching is, to recognize that what has arisen in the world and continues to arise in the world is the result of ignorance, and to embrace the world in that way, in that conceptual, abstract way, is actually a teaching to embrace ignorance. Again, completely contradicting what the Buddha teaches. I'll just read my comment here. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. But here, what I'm saying is the Buddha does not teach a mindfulness of all things Dhamma. This is a modern strategy used to continue distraction and continue ignorance. He taught a refined mindfulness, which means engaging in right meditation for the sole purpose of increasing jhana, or increasing concentration. A well-concentrated mind can then support the refined mindfulness necessary to be mindful of, to hold in mind the entire Eightfold Path as the framework and ongoing guidance for developing unwavering calm and peaceful mind. The Buddha says, I say to you all, you are all fortunate indeed. As you would uproot medicinal herbs, you should uproot craving, meaning right at the root. Excuse me. Do not let Mara destroy you, as a raging river continually destroys the reeds. Come here, lay down. Come on, stop it. Lay down here, lay down right here. Go ahead, good boy. The reference to Mara, as in all of the Buddha's Dhamma, is simply as metaphor, which the Buddha uses often. Mara is always metaphor for a disturbed and distracted mind that is disturbed and distracted by its own ignorance. In other words, Mara is metaphor for the results of ignorance. Just as a tree will rise again if its roots are not cut, any craving not rooted out will arise again and again. In other words, if we analyze or mollify or embrace or massage our craving, as is really what is taught in most of modern Buddhism, even if it's subtle, it's usually not, it's usually pretty obvious, it's only going to rise again and again. That's often taught as some way of, like a misguided way of self-care, and it is just that. In fact, it is the cruelest thing we can do, is to somehow explain away or justify craving. That's the root of the Buddha's Dhamma, and this particular section of the Dhammapada is to root out craving. not embrace it, not massage it, not analyze it, simply recognize it and root it out, abandon it. The Buddha continues. The mindless person, the currents of craving flowing unrestrained, are always grasping after pleasure and are swept away by the flood of their own passionate thoughts. Everywhere the currents of craving flow, the creeper grows and grows. Understanding, the wise Dhamma practitioner cuts craving at its root and does not adapt or accommodate or embellish the Buddha's Dhamma to accommodate in many subtle and powerful ways continued craving. Flowing in from all phenomena and sustained by craving, feelings of pleasure arise in all beings. Grasping after pleasure and satisfaction, people succumb to impermanence and decay. And this is the whole notion that is conveniently hidden somewhat in this idea of a non-dual existence. Just think about that this non-dual foolishness that we are all one and we're all part of one great cosmic unity is just simply contradicts everything the Buddha taught. I have an article on the website that speaks more to this than I will right now. It's called Dependent Origination and the Myth of Non-Duality. You can look that up under the category of dependent origination. But the Buddha taught that in order to awaken, we must see the discreteness of each and every arising phenomena, and I should say arising and passing away phenomena, and the lack of self in any of that. Which again, these modern practices teach just the opposite. They teach us to encourage clinging to every object, event, view, and idea that occurs rather than recognizing there's no such self in any of that. The Buddha continues. Overwhelmed by craving, the fool chases pleasure like a caged rabbit looking for escape. Bound to the world by greed, aversion, and deluded thinking, they give rise to suffering forever. What a powerful statement. Overwhelmed by craving, the fool chases pleasure like a rabbit caught in a snare. Those that strive to abandon passion will destroy that craving. There are those that abandon worldly entanglements and turn to my Dhamma, and though free, run back to that bondage. Look at this person. Once free, they run back to the same old chains. And that's like a person that starts developing the Dhamma in earnest, the Buddha's Dhamma, and realizes the challenges that are there, meaning the challenge to recognize their own fabricated views. And that's simply too difficult for many. And they run back to other dharmas that allow for continued eye-making, or they simply abandon it altogether. The Buddha continues, the wise know that clinging to iron, wood, or hemp is easier to cut, meaning clinging to impermanent phenomena that is not as personalized as others, meaning we don't have strong attachment to that. It's easier to cut than an infatuation with jewels, ornaments, children, or spouses. This is the bond that is elastic, constraining, and hard to cut. In other words, the Buddha is pointing us to those things that we ascribe a deep sense of personalization to, are the most difficult ones, but they're also the most difficult impersonal and temporary phenomena to let go of. And they're the ones that we're closest to. It is, the Buddha continues, it is a nature of a deluded mind to value arbitrary and impermanent objects, some more than others. The more value, meaning the more clinging one places on an object, the more potential for continued distraction and stress is present. The wise cut even these bonds. The wise abandon sensual pleasure and calmly renounce the world. Of course, it doesn't mean that we get rid of our children or anything else that a mind rooted in ignorance will foolishly jump to. It simply means we don't take children personally. And that is the best mode of parenting, isn't it? That we don't react strongly and harshly and take our children's misbehavior in a personal way, And so we're able to be calm and mindful and help form our children's behavior within the framework of the Eightfold Path, just as we're forming our own behavior. That's how it works. The wise Dhamma practitioner cuts this off at its root. Having abandoned craving, they abandon all suffering and are free of worldly entanglements. Release the past, release the future, release the present. Cross over to the farther shore of existence. With a mind wholly liberated, you will no longer give birth to another moment rooted in the living death of ignorance. And that's an important teaching on karma and rebirth that I won't go to. But there's a link on that line in this article to articles on karma and rebirth. For a person who is tormented by their own deluded thoughts, overcome by passion for the pursuit of pleasure, their craving only grows stronger indeed. Those who delight in overcoming delusion, who is always mindful, who abandons greed, aversion, and deluded thinking, will end craving by recognizing and abandoning ignorance, in parentheses, of Four Noble Truths. Those fearless, free of craving, having overcome passion for the world, who has plucked the thorns of ignorance, there will be no further becoming. And the becoming is explained as a link in the article again. There's 3 articles on what that means on the website. Much of the Buddha's teachings is about what the potential holds, and that a mind rooted in wisdom of the Eightfold Path is inclined toward becoming awakened, and a mind that is continued to rooted in ignorance is inclined to become further ignorant. That's the meaning of becoming. Those free of craving and clinging, perfectly understanding the truth of my Dhamma and the proper context, will indeed be free of ignorance. Again, such an important line. In order to understand the Buddha's Dhamma, you have to understand the context, which is found in a truthful understanding, an authentic understanding of dependent origination, and the Buddha's very first teaching in the Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta, the initial sutta on Four Noble Truths. Those free of free of craving and clinging, perfectly understanding the truth of my Dhamma and the proper context, will indeed be free of ignorance. They are profoundly wise, a great person. Through right knowledge, I have conquered the world. Buddha is referring to himself. I am free of clinging. Through abandoning ignorance, I am free of craving. I have comprehended this by myself. Buddha is referring to himself. Who would I call my teacher? What he's referring to also is a true understanding of what it means to take refuge. And there's an article on the Ratana Sutta linked in this article here too, that we take refuge in the Buddha, his Dhamma, and in well-informed and well-focused Sangha. And what that means is we don't create myth over who the Buddha was. He was a human being. We take true refuge in that. We cannot take true refuge in something that is only in our imagination, can we? A mythical, mystical, and magical Buddha, one among many. The Buddha never taught that. We take refuge in a human Buddha, that a human Buddha discovered how to awaken under these terms, and he taught his Dhamma that we take refuge to. And of course, if we're going to take refuge in his Dhamma, it has to be an authentic Dhamma, doesn't it? And adapted, accommodated, or embellished Dhamma offers no refuge. It only offers more distraction. And we take refuge in a well-focused and well-informed Sangha. And that means a Sangha that focuses solely on what the Buddha teaches and develops it. The Buddha continues, the gift of the Dhamma is foremost. If we are truly consider ourselves generous people, we'll develop an understanding of the Dhamma so that we can at the very least be an example of it, and perhaps when it's appropriate, even teach it. The gift of the Dhamma is foremost. The taste of the Dhamma is foremost. The light in the Dhamma is foremost. Free of craving ends all suffering. Riches ruin only the fool, not the wise Dhamma practitioner. Not the wise Dhamma practitioner seeking nibbana. Meaning, in the world, we really have a choice. We can seek sensual pleasure and riches, or we can seek understanding. It doesn't mean that seeking understanding excludes having some comfort and perhaps even wealth. It simply means we won't be attached to it and we won't define ourselves by that. The fool ruins themselves as well as others by grasping after and clinging to things of the world. Weeds destroy fields as craving ruins humanity. What a powerful statement. This is 2,600 years ago. And if it is craving, unbridled craving, that is destroying humanity. Therefore, what is offered to others free of craving yields abundant fruit. And the most powerful thing that we can use and offer others free of craving is the gift of the Dhamma and our own awakening. That's the end of this chapter. I'll continue this series for the next few weeks. And then by the end of the summer, I hope to have my next book, which will be on the Dhammapada. So thank you for joining me for this talk. And I always thank Bodhi for joining too. I will see you. And I've changed the schedule of this talk to no schedule. It will be given typically once a week, usually sometime between Wednesday and Friday. And as soon as I finish it, I'm going to go and post it. And that's what I'll continue to do. If you want to join me and would like to be notified about an hour before I'm going to start these talks, just send me an email to my email account or through the website. And I'll put you on a list to be notified an hour before the beginning of these talks. Thank you for joining today. Peace.